All right, this is the presence of what is engineered light appearing on my ceiling inside of my bedroom. And again, what catches this sort of, first of all, this is demonic and this is never naturally occurring, but I'm speaking to a pattern. So the entity engages in this pattern of terrorism, arriving, constructively arriving, communicating a threat, stalking by helicopter, crossing path, amplified audible activity by the demon possessed who live in the apartment complex, or they don't even have to live, amplified audible activity via a third party driving on Alvarado. In other words, I'm speaking to the elements of monitoring. The entity shows hostility. It's demonic activity. It's the elements of monitoring. Yes, they are group stalking. They are criminally monitoring. They're engaged in federal stalking on the venue of the internet. They also engage in that pattern of conduct for purposes of communicating a threat. You are communicating a threat when the entity is engaging in the element of what is terrorism via directed light. Let me point out the time. It's 3:51 p.m. The sun is above us. The sun is never going to create any sort of light activity. Remember, while the light source was outside of the living room window this morning, this light activity was present, engaged in real-time movement, disappearing altogether when I'm documenting third-party group stalker Vaughn's, that's Albertson's companies. And then you have what is the light source that's outside of this window, and the entity is maintaining this light. I want to speak to what I'm uploading onto the Compare the P.O.C. folder right now. Evidence that already existed before I heavily documented the entity acting via the Los Angeles Police Department, who was acting in conformity to a well-documented pattern of conduct, like I already stated was the case. And what you will see is documentation of the criminal system that Thomas Garza was criminally facilitating when he unlawfully denied me justice, denied me recovery that I was lawfully requesting, going through the formalities and doing so. And I documented his criminal engagement in what is the pattern of conduct via facilitation, criminal facilitation of the system to continue. In other words, to deny justice to the target individual is to permit the criminal system to persist, which is to threaten your life and your liberty, which is exactly what I have suffered to date in 2024. This is an iteration of impossible light activity appearing above my head inside of my bedroom. While the entity is monitoring, okay, all of the entity is shocked. They engage in this psychotic conduct when they are scared of what it is that they're witnessing. I'm exposing online at this time. And I'm reminding you about what the San Bernardino Police Department engaged in on October 4th, 2019, where they were group stalking at the courthouse at 12:47 p.m., where there would never be any sun over my apartment, which is exactly what happened today. The entity is rising and setting the light source in alignment to me, which is the pattern of conduct, demon stalking with light. I'm subject to state surveillance. They're also engaged in federal stalking. The entity is engaging in what is keeping the light source over my head in conformity to the pattern of conduct, not the operation of the natural environment. And you see that in video, which I uploaded to the Compare the P.O.C. folder, and you'll see the San Bernardino Police Department. They're the ones that are stalking in helicopter, which is also over my head, which I captured on video. That's at the San Bernardino Superior Court. And there is nothing in this environment in Los Angeles, which is shared with regard to the San Bernardino Courthouse at the intersection of Arrowhead and 3rd in San Bernardino. Okay, so I want to also be clear, that's capturing the P.O.C. on this same day in the evening. The demon-possessed agency that are engaged in group stalking, and I documented that on October 4th, 2019. I still remain in San Bernardino. I'm headed toward the sheriff's office, and the entity is surrounding me by the San Bernardino Police Department. They're engaged in the demonic pattern of pacing. This is one vehicle after another, crossing path. The entity is in the specific environment. The entity is maintaining what is presence by crossing paths repeatedly, systematically through the means of traffic. This is a systematic means of state surveillance, by the way. As I pointed out, state surveillance is underway through the people of the state. The entity is communicating the highest threat. And understand what is relevant, the context. I have filed a civil suit against the state of California, which Thomas Garza, in every way, acting pursuant to his role in the state facilitating venue of the courthouse, is engaging in what is the criminal act of denial of what it is that you are entitled to under the law. But I want to be clear, this federal group stalking and monitoring is providing what is jurisdiction to the federal government. The purpose of my prosecuting my case against the state and so inside of the courts of this state of California was to document the criminal engagement in the pattern of conduct and criminal facilitation, showing conclusively that you cannot get justice from the entity that is monitoring you. That's why I have the light source over me at that courthouse, and you are witnessing the entity engaging in what is the hallmark, stalking in helicopter. That's a demon flying a black helicopter while I'm at 5th and Arrowhead in San Bernardino, and the demons that are the San Bernardino Police Department are crossing path one vehicle after another. They're doing so with the people of the state, but this is the state acting directly. This is the state communicating a threat while I'm in San Bernardino filing paperwork, going from the courthouse to the sheriff's office. Also monitoring a relevant position is the San Bernardino Probation Department. That I'm standing in the parking lot at that state facilitating venue. The San Bernardino Police Department are group stalking, standing in between two third-party facilitating venues. So they are group stalking. They're maintaining presence in my path, while a helicopter is group stalking. That is crossing path, flying in the opposite direction away from me. That's accomplishing the same pattern. This is what the entity is engaging in on an ongoing basis. You have demons such as the Los Angeles Police Department, the Ontario Police Department, the Fontana Police Department, who have engaged in an all outright abandon. They have abandoned what is supposed to be their appearance of being disinterested and looking like they're doing something else. When you have heavily documented this entity for so long, they engage in a grand departure from that. And you are not, you can fly away from the target individual all you want. It's group stalking. But like I said, the entity seeks to maintain that outward guise of we're flying away from the target individual. Nobody's stalking her. Nobody's even aware of the target individual. That's supposed to be the outward appearance, but you're aware of what is the specific environment. And then you're also aware of what is that ongoing pattern of you always want to appear as though you're flying away from me, but you're always near me flying away from me. You're always near me in order for me to capture that. That is also documenting the same criminal system. And this is just crushing, in every way, obliterating all the false premises upon which a government thinks that it can stalk you in plain sight, but then also want to appear as though they're doing something else. Of course, you've totally lost that appearance when you provide documentation of flying in a circle in a relevant position to be by more than one police department for 22 minutes, for an hour, for 47 minutes. This is what the Ontario Police Department have engaged in, the Los Angeles Police Department have engaged in, and they are doing it in the specific environment as well. This is documentation of the specific environment. And so while I'm uploading this video of the same entity, San Bernardino Sheriff's Department is the same entity as the Los Angeles Police Department. It's the same public entity engaging in state surveillance. As I engage in review evidence that this entity is scared to death of, this is what they engage in. So while the entity is engaging in what is federal stalking, they engage in acts such as making its presence known in helicopter, showing what is impossible light. This is the evidence of demon possession, by the way. You are seeing what is later, the entity is keeping a light source in violation of nature, and it is directly and equally probative with regard to the condition of Thomas Garza, that's a demon, who is engaging in the state's pattern of conduct, and his role is in the courts, okay? So I want to be clear, he is being equally shown to be a group stalker while he is criminally facilitating the pattern of conduct while you are looking at impossible light activity that is then appearing all over my walls, underneath my mattress, on the floor, and appearing on that bedroom wall there. That's impossible light activity as well. The sun is never rising and setting through the windows of one apartment either. And where the entity is doing that, that is speaking to the specific environment that I was surrounded by and the group stalking that the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department and American Medical Response and the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department were engaged in concert with the people of the state, as I documented in October of 2019, where this same entity that is to date engaging in this criminal system engaged in what is criminal obstruction of justice via the criminal abridgment of my First Amendment rights to redress in the civil courts. All right. This is P.O.C. It's currently 3:58 p.m. I want you to see what is, again, the coexisting maintenance of impossible light, dynamic light that's appearing. This is supposed to be the form for what's sunlight. This is what you see in my living room this morning through closed blinds on the floor, not and it's maintaining maintenance all day long, dragging from the upward on the wall onto the floor. And then you saw in the morning what was this light activity while the light source was outside of that window. So now the light source is outside of this window. That's hours later. That's the pattern of conduct. That's never going to be sunlight either. And you have what is the engineer light. This is supposed to be the explanation for sunlight, but all you have to do is break that down because you know that that's not sunlight. But then you're also looking at, well, what is that? Okay, and it's not funny, but this is the asininity. The demon possessed are clearly exposed. The demon possessed are clearly stalking in this environment, and the demon possessed are also posing a public safety concern. They cannot control themselves. They will not stop engaging in what is stalking you and keeping you under surveillance, and they are exposing all of their demonic tactics. And this is an environment that is inherently terrorizing and frightening to the ordinary target individual. It is serving for what is federal stalking. And it is occurring while this is supposed to be the sun that's above you. So the sun that is above you creates light that's going down at a downward trajectory. There is no point which sunlight that's coming from the sun at a downward trajectory is somehow coming through closed blinds and appearing up, and at the same time coming through closed blinds and appearing at a downward trajectory, also coming through closed blinds and magnified in size. The holes on the wall are bigger than this. You're even seeing the leaves on the trees blowing through the magnification of light on the wall. That is all manner of what is the evidence of demon possession, by the way. That's what you're looking at. Okay, when I'm referencing impossible light activity, I'm referencing the evidence of that which you cannot see, which is demon possession on the people of the state who are surrounding. They're stalking. It's a demon possessed population, and they are absolute psychopaths. This is how the secret society operates. But when you are dissecting, when you start to analyze and scrutinize and pay attention, you are witnessing not only the environment, which is a defying common sense and logic and nature, you also witness what is the criminal activity that it is maliciously engaging in with regard to the efforts to conceal that system. You don't have an ongoing coincidence of repeated civil rights violations by these law enforcement agencies who are following you from place to place and engaging in what is literally making up information so that they can kidnap you, while you just so happen to be in the midst of documenting and enforcing your rights against that same entity. That's not a coincidence. It's impossible to be a coincidence, by the way. The entity that is engaging in that is keeping its back to you while it is stalking you, keeping its back, looking to the left and the right, while the entity is engaging all out stalking and surveillance and terrorism by helicopter, looking to the left and the right while they are stalking you, and engineer light is swiping all across surfaces while they're doing something as basic as driving a vehicle, while they're looking to the left and the right, holding the hands of children, while this all manner of this demonic light is all inside of your, that's why they're all going to federal prison. This is terrorism by the people who are placing you under heavy duty surveillance. They are watching you like a hawk, and that's terrorism by a highly deranged entity. You are not exercising any constitutional rights, group stalking at the facilitating venue where the target individual lives. You are waiting to be raided by the federal government, and you're going to federal prison. That's what you're waiting on. All right. It's currently, by the way, 4:01 p.m. And you will witness the San Bernardino Police Department engaging in what is group stalking and monitoring on October, which is during daylight savings time, the exact same time. And this is where the entity is keeping the light source for the duration of the day. From my living room window, I'm in the same apartment, 1806 North Alvarado Street, and it is currently 4:01 p.m. And you're not going to forget the fact that the entity is rising, keeping the light source as early as 8 o'clock in the morning, even before that, but also as late as 6:32 p.m. And I'm able to see this so-called sun through the entrance doors of Ovid Family Community Library, 215 East C Street in Ontario, California. It is rising literally at 7:48 in the morning and setting as late as 6:52 in the evening with regard to what is the light source that's supposedly the sun when I'm at 2301 South Euclid Avenue in Ontario, California. Both of those are venues where this same exact entity engaged in what is kidnapping while I was documenting the pattern of conduct. None of that coexists with what is the light source, because that's not possibly the sun that I'm documenting in its zenith over my head at 12:47 p.m. in San Bernardino, California, which is exactly what was remaining, the specific environment, while you're looking at what is the traces of supposedly sunlight that's touching the surfaces around, while that San Bernardino Police Department is exhibiting their demon possession and their engagement in what is a state system, and that is group stalking and posing the highest threat, while the agency itself showing their demon possession, also engaging in what is the same exact criminal system when concert with the people, group stalking in their police vehicles and in helicopter, all right, at Arrowhead and 5th Street, the same exact day. Under no circumstances is that ever the natural environment, neither is this. And while the entity provides foolishly to the world, but it's good, it's to your benefit, because you need to understand what demon possession looks like. You need to understand what the demonic environment looks like. You need to understand the criminal conduct that a government is engaging in that environment. And you're also subject to surveillance on the internet via communication devices, your laptops, your iPads, your cell phones, everything with regard to even your televisions, because everything, and your cameras, the cameras that you have, they're keeping you under surveillance on the venue of the internet that's relevant to interstate commerce. The entity is keeping you under surveillance unbeknownst to you. All right. And so one like me, as I'm exposing it, they intend to threaten your life. They intend to take your liberty. And that's exactly what you're doing when you're engaged in already a documented pattern of kidnapping and obstructing justice in the state facilitating venue of the courts, where those are demons that are practicing law with the public defender's office and the district attorney's office, making up names in order to engage in a fictitious prosecution while they're demons monitoring you in that venue, which is why the light source is over that courthouse. There's no sun that's ever going to be there. Ever. With regard to the documented maintenance of the so-called sun in entirely distinct locations. Now we're adding Los Angeles, 1806 North Alvarado Street to that documentation. That's not the sun over the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court or the sun over the San Bernardino Superior Court, both of which are venues that engaged in the exercise of fictitious authority, and all those engaged in what is the criminal obstruction of justice. Kidnapping is criminal obstruction of justice. They're all going to federal prison. They will have nothing to do with the legal profession, and the world is going to understand what is the reality of demonic activity. What is the reality, the evidence of demon possession, having nothing to do with what is actually physical. It has to do with what is behavior in a very specific environment. It's a demonic environment. All right. And this is relevant to what's going on in this country and what you can reasonably anticipate to occur in the future. All right. It is currently 4:05 p.m., and that is direct evidence of demon possession and the ongoing criminal system of federal stalking. The entity engages in what is that communication of that threat while demons are petrified while they're looking at what I'm reviewing on my phone. This is the threatening conduct that they engage in. More evidence of the fact that they're demons and they're keeping you under surveillance. It is again 4:05 p.m. and this is P.O.C.